Hi everyone, welcome to FinTechVerse, a webinar series from FinBox. Today we are gathered here to discuss Account Aggregator, the most interesting hot subject in the digital lending world. If you are joining us, you've probably even heard of it already. But today we want to take this conversation a step further and go beyond the basics of Account Aggregator and hear from FIUs and TSPs and FIPs as well in terms of their context, in terms of their perspective on how this has been shaping up, and also discuss how it is going to go forward from here in terms of both innovation and use cases. So pretty excited. We have got a very glittering panel here. I would want to introduce the distinguished panel first. We have Rahul Sekar, who is the co-founder of MyShubhLife. We have Harsh, who is the head of products at DMI Finance. We have Manoj, who is a co-founder of Finvu, which was one of the biggest account aggregator entities. Also, we have Ruchi, who is the practice lead for AA adoption at Sahamati. Sahamati is one of the biggest industry bodies working to increase the adoption and governance in the AA space. And we also have Arpan from FinBox, who handles the AA product at FinBox. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much for joining all the viewers who are watching this. I request all the viewers to definitely leave their comments and ask questions and interact with the audience. And we'll hope to keep this very engaging as we go along. Let's get started. And I would like to first come to Ruchi specifically and kind of ask you to, demystify this for us a little bit, because there are a lot of terms that we get thrown around. There is an industry alliance, there is a self-regulatory body, and just tell us how the AA governance system works, and what role does Sahamati play in it, and what are the subcommittees like, and what is the overall structure which is being followed in the ecosystem right now?
Right. So Sahamati is, so let me tell you, Sahamati has been in existence almost parallelly with the account aggregator framework since 2019 to be precise. Sahamati is an industry alliance. We are a Section 8 not-for-profit organization, which is a collective of all the ecosystem participants. Now, today, the ecosystem participants includes FIPs, FIUs, account aggregators themselves, and the unregulated technology service providers. So we are an alliance that works, that gets all these participants together and tries, and our singular motive is to create adoption of the ecosystem by the entities that can rightfully adopt it, and also provide a techno-legal framework which can as a service to the entire ecosystem participants. Now, to do that, of course, we have certain services that we have rolled out. Additionally, we also have the committees that are in practice that basically create a voice for the community within the ecosystem. Uh, so that is on the committee side, and the other thing, Sahamati itself has a governing council. We are governed by a governing council. We have an advisory council, and along with that, we have steering committees. Today, there are two types of steering committees. There is technology service providers, and there is account aggregators. In the account aggregators today, all 17 account aggregators, operational and in principle, are members. And in the steering committee, TSP steering committee, we have eight TSP steering committee, 8 electives of the entire community that are in the TSP steering committee. So that is how Sahamati is structured. It's an industry alliance of the ecosystem participants, run by or governed by a governing council, which regularly meets. We have governing council meetings that happen once in quarter, and along with that, we have the advisory council, and we also have the committees that are in place.
Got it. Got it. Sounds like a very well managed system. So I would have just one follow-up
Right.
for you on this, Ruchi. Uh, Ultimately, the regulator is the RBI, right? And
Uh-huh.
the RBI kind of prescribes all the norms and regulations
Uh-huh.
for the ecosystem. So I'm assuming that Sahamati kind of works also as a liaison between the ecosystem participants and the RBI, and kind of helps that voice go forward.
See, our singular motive is to be an alliance for the ecosystem. The ecosystem
Right.
itself. So, like I said, we have the AA steering committee, right? Now, the ecosystem ecosystem itself comes together, and if there is any kind of representation or any kind of discussion that needs to happen, the ecosystem participants come together. So we are a member alliance, right? Sahamati is not just the 8-10 of us that is Sahamati. Sahamati is actually the
Right.
account aggregators, the other ecosystem participants as well. So, if there is any kind of discussion representation that needs to happen, the ecosystem participants, in the form of, say, regulated entities like account aggregators, themselves will come together and make the right representation.
Great,
Our,
great.
our
Thank you so much.
like I said, our motive is to get the participants together and create a very smooth functioning system for and services to the ecosystem.
Right. That's actually excellent. And I've seen personally at some of the events and kind of webinars as well as discussions how equitable and accessible this forum has been, and wonderful it has been for the community as well. Cool. I think now that we're talking about the ecosystem, I think there is one interesting thing that happened, which is that we saw Mr. Amitabh Bachchan mention a on Conveyor Growthpati recently, and it made all the news because it got that mainstream. It got into the living room conversations. But as a framework is still kind of new, and it's also still evolving, and most end users probably don't know about it in very much detail. So I would love to know from Harsh, first of all, you that at your end as somebody who is using this, how are you enabling education and customer awareness on this?
Sure. Thanks, Mag, for that. And you rightly pointed out, um, we had a similar way when we had the mutual fund Sahi Hai campaign happening. So a campaign like this obviously helps percolate this message down to the customers that this is something which is done under a framework of security and data privacy laws. So there is no kind of concern that the customer should have. Now, in terms of addressing that, I think the first thing that we have to ensure is that any customer facing people within the organization are being taught the necessity and the need for the account aggregator, which includes our, let's say, telecalling guys, our sales guys, and things like that. Then there are two more forkings. So as you think about lending, right, there are two kind of journeys our customers end up having, right? One is, let's say, a customer is doing an assisted journey where there is somebody, a sales agent or a offline retail POS store, where somebody is able to guide him and coach him that this is a necessity and this is a fully secure way of providing their details. Over there, what we have started doing is we have started coaching those people. We have upwards of a lakh kind of service points like that. So we have started creating video journals. We have started creating FAQs. We have started kind of percolating within our own ecosystem, because teaching that is the first necessity. And then, as part of digital journeys, wherever we are invoking account aggregator flows, what we have started working on is educating customers that this is critical, and this is over and above whether they need a loan or not a loan. This is a messaging that goes out to customers as a separate kind of marketing kind of effort from our end, where we kind of educate users, educate customers who have come to us for lending purposes. There are many other kind of activities that we have planned for. For example, in part of the AA journeys today, we want to embed some of these videos that we talked about, right? Create those brand recoils for people to start connecting the dots, that they saw something on KBC and now they're able to see that familiar kind of environment within the journeys that they're going through. So these are all basically nudges, software aspects, internal as well as external, that we have started doing on Account Aggregator.
Very interesting. I think it is very important going forward for us to work continuously towards user engagement and awareness on this, and specifically because it's such a transformative concept, right? Like it gives the power back to the user about their data and gives them the control of it as well. So Rahul, if you would like to add on to this, if you could want to talk about what are the different initiatives that you have done, or things that you would like to do differently in this space. Also, if you could shed some light on what has the user response been like, are they understanding all these terms? Are they understanding the jargons of FIP, FIUs, or how is it?
Right. I would like to echo everything that Harsh said. We have very similar efforts going on, creating educational content, educating our sales and customer support teams, and all of that. Being a fully digital lender, we would ideally like the customer to sort of complete the journey by themselves. And this, unfortunately, is not happening to the extent that we like in the AA journey. Many customers still need hand holding, and today we do that through voice calls to help them assist the journey wherever they are. And largely it works. There is a small fraction that is still very apprehensive that, hey, is this safe? I know that you're throwing jargon at me, you're saying RBI account aggregator and all of that, but it is asking me for an OTP and talking about my bank account details. Should I do this, right? That is sort of like an uphill battle for us. We can try to convince the customer as an FIU, but the effort, the awareness getting created from somebody like an RBI and using celebrities like Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, that definitely helps. And we would like more such efforts to happen so that we can, as Harsh again said, sort of make the connection that, hey, this is the same thing that Bachchan Saab was talking about. So that definitely helps. We would like to see more such efforts. But from our side, we are trying to make the journey as self serving as possible from the customer side. And for that, we work with the TSPs and account aggregators. That's what we are doing.
So,
Great,
Mayank,
great.
if
I
you
think,
allow,
yeah.
sorry, Mayank, if you can allow me to add to just one more point that Rahul said. See, from a customer perspective, you have to understand that customers like you and us would not find this difficult to do. There are customers who belong to tier two, tier three markets where the perception is quite different. Why is that different? Because over the last, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, there have been messages that please don't share your data, please don't share OTPs, please don't do this, right? So I think it's only a matter of time once people start using it like they did for DigiLocker, like they did for other kind of initiatives that transform the digital stack of India. I think this will also kind of go mainstream. But the truest challenge will not come from the urban centers. The truest challenge will come from slightly offshore centers from urban places.
Absolutely. I think both of you have very valid points, and it's a very natural, I think, rite of passage for any new technology to go through that early adopter stage, and then it kind of trickles down to the becoming a household name. We actually saw that with UPI a lot. For instance, like for a while, it didn't really take off because people were concerned because there's money going from their bank account. They didn't know exactly what is happening here, how robust the system is. But I feel like the trust comes when everyone starts doing it and they see other people doing it and they're like, okay, this works. And I think the best argument for AA actually is that the other way, other options are so much worse, because the other option actually to get a loan, for instance, is to like share your bank account statements on a WhatsApp to like some random person who you don't exactly trust, and then you don't know where that data ends up. So I feel like that's the best argument that works in favor of AA, that nobody gets to see your information except the person who is supposed to. And then also it is heavily encrypted and regulated. So Manoj, I think this is also one of the things where I would want to like personally learn more a little bit about in terms of the security protocols in the AA ecosystem. As in AA, what are the can you walk us through a bit about the security protocols and how secure the data is, and what exactly is happening behind the scenes, right?
Sure. So, if you look at the master action given by RBI, right, it clearly mentions the data protection, right? So, let's talk about the interaction between AA, FIP, and FIU. First of all the interaction is happening on the white status IPs, right? So, no random person can talk to me. I have to request over the email, fill up the form, the IP will get whitelisted at the firewall level, and then only you can talk. That's first level, right? Every request that comes has to have as a token as specified by Rabbit. Right now, that token is issued by Sahamati. So as a FinVu, I will have that token, and whenever I do a request for, let's say, ICICI, it has my token, so they recognize that, hey, this is the guy. And the request payload is encrypted and signed by me. So that is the additional level of security. So we can write. And the data that we receive from ICICI, right, it is encrypted. So the way this works is, let's say DMI Finance in this case did a data request, right? It has its private key and public key. So using its private key, it is going to create a nonce or a variable, right? A UID at the runtime. It is going to pass that. What ISS is going to do is take the nonce, its own private key, encrypt the data using DMI's public key, and send the data to A. And when it as a I don't have any private key, so I cannot read data. So by design, I'm data blind. And when the data is delivered to DMI, it understands whether the data is tampered or not, and then it has only the key, the private key, to decrypt it. So that way, it's foolproof.
Wonderful. I think that was the answer that exactly we were looking for, and I think it will give people a lot of comfort, even if they don't fully understand it, that there is actually a lot of checks and balances in place to ensure complete security of the data through and through. About now that we have spoken about how the data gets there, let's talk about what do we do with this data. So, Arpan, I would love to know from you, what are the various ways in which lenders, and especially in lending and digital lending, this is where AI has been most prevalent so far. What are the various use cases and the insights that people are able to derive from this data, and how does it actually help the lending process?
Sure. So, over the last years, we have seen a number of diverse entities joining the account aggregator ecosystem, which is already giving rise to number of use cases like a gateway where TSPs can partner with multiple account aggregators to enable a gateway for FIUs and their partners. They can also handle insights on FIP performance and take care of the user experience. There is lending, of course, for which account aggregator enables underwriting as well as collections. Apart from lending, we are also seeing a rise in personal finance management and wealth management use cases. For example, PFM platforms now allows users to view all their funds and manage it in one place. Similarly, investment and wealth management platforms consolidate all their investment information in one place. Gives a really useful insight to the end user on what they are doing with their finances and how to manage it. Also, PFM and wealth management apps use this consolidation of data to create analytics and insights that help the user better manage their finances. In fact, a very interesting piece is that platforms can also leverage the UNR, which we also call as the Unified Nominations Register, to allow users to find unclaimed investments, account of which they are nominees of. I'm sure in future this is going to be a very interesting use case. Apart from this, something's also interesting is that in lending, for instance, a kind of dual verification through penny drop can also be enabled through account aggregator. Now coming to the later part of the question, which is underwriting. So account aggregator journeys has already been adding a lot of value in the lending journeys, definitely. Account aggregator reduces the number of touch points in the onboarding journey. Sourcing bank statements through account aggregator removes any opportunity for tampering with the statement. Essentially reducing frauds, and it's a big challenge in the whole underwriting ecosystem. On top of it, the addition of GST as an FIP will give a massive boost to business loans. We are seeing that it already makes underwriting easier with access to information around cash inflows and outflows from a business's bank statements, and maybe also match it with the revenues and costs mentioned in the GST records. I think it will also allow underwriters to make more informed decisions, as they will have access to taxes payable and late fees, etc. So yeah.
So, Arpan, to your point, right? Apart from that, we are seeing like I'm onboarding, right? I'm opening an account, right? Doesn't matter it's a mutual fund account or even a saving account. I don't have to submit the details, right? Through A, onboarding makes life more easy, right? Because my address as well as my PAN card and all that is already pre-filled, right? Apart from that, there is a use case of risk, right? If you look at my portfolio, and then I can find out the risk, right? So nudges is normal, right? So basically reminders of my LIC payment or premium payment, that's all normal.
Absolutely,
These are
Manoj. So I think the top of the funnel onboarding can be really solved with the account aggregator.
and Arpan, that for compliance also, right? So let's say I'm buying an FNO, right? So you have a compliance, or I'm buying a US stock, right? Then you have to submit my 12-month detail to SEBI or SEBI registered some entity, right? There also people use A. So basically, all these compliances were physically upload was required, and my stock was not getting executed. People used AA services for that.
And absolutely, we are already
Income
seeing,
verification.
yes, we're already seeing brokerage firms, already being onboarded with account aggregator, not just to do verification of their incomes per FNO, but also to do wealth management tracking and, making lives easier for their customers. So completely agreed with you, Manoj.
Absolutely. I think there is, from what it seems like, it feels like AI is soon going to impact every possible area in the financial services industry, be it onboarding, be it verification, be it compliance. And definitely we are seeing underwriting use cases, which will also evolve as more entities sign up and more entities start using the framework itself. And to that effect, in fact, let us step back and also discuss that recently RBI also kind of said that all the financial information users must also be a financial information provider on the AA network. What it means is that any entity which wants to pull data from AA should also try and list itself as a financial information provider, which kind of is aimed at probably ensuring equitable access for all kinds of data. But I would love to kind of get a detailed perspective on this from Harsh. Why is RBI insisting on making the data sharing of the data so mutual? What do you think is happening behind this?
Yeah, I mean, one part is reciprocity. That if there is data that is today it belongs to FIPs which FIUs are using, so that should be shared equally between the two parties, so that there is a more 360-degree view that all the participants get, right? Uh, Obviously, this needs a little bit of peeling the layers, right? Because if you think about it, why are FIUs using FIP data? Because they don't have that data, right? Now, in terms of, if you think about it, the saving account statements or the bank account statement is not something which majority of the FIUs have direct access to, right? Because majority of FIUs are NBFCs, to a large extent, right? Or let's say PFM players, etc. So they don't have those bank accounts which the FIPs have. And why an FIU needs that FIP data is because it is easier, thanks to the CICs, which is the credit bureaus, that you are able to ascertain the liability side of a customer. But the income side of the customer has been traditionally fraught with many challenges, right? Like you said, somebody is uploading, sending on a WhatsApp, a PDF bank statement, somebody changing the credit debits, entries in that bank statement, and so on and so forth. So, in a sense, what would a bank or an FIP, or at least an FIP, which is a bank, get out from an FIU, especially a NBFC lending FIU, is something that needs to be thought through. But essentially, strategically, philosophically, this makes sense, right? That both parties who have joined this ecosystem together are nurturing this ecosystem together with the data that is available through the secure pipes that players like Finvu have laid down for either parties to kind of go ahead. What kind of data becomes value additive for either party is something that both parties have to kind of evolve and understand. For FIUs, the use case is much more intuitive and simpler to understand. For the current FIPs, which are the banks, the use case needs to be a little bit more thought through, because all the data that other FIUs or NBFCs have is already reported with the CICs, which are the credit bureaus, right? Which are the lending data and things like that. There might be some lending data and performance data is already with CIC. So what additional data sets that FIUs can provide to FIPs, existing FIPs, is something that we need to think through.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective, and I think we should come back to it and peel it a little more. But there's also a very interesting question that has come up. I think I would like to have Ruchi answer this. Mujib Beg is asking, how are customers responding to account aggregation? What is the adoption percentage? Also, there is an addendum to this question, which is that I'm personally using account aggregation on multiple multi-platform apps, and I see that my banking data is refreshed only once in a day, whereas as a user, I would like to have it refreshed every time I access the app. So he's asking if there is a challenge.
Okay. So one, let's take it bit by bit. How are customers responding? Today, we see in November, as of November 23, 2023, there are more than 36 million consent requests that have been successfully fulfilled. Vis-a-vis November 22, when it was less than 3 million consent requests that were fulfilled. There is a huge uptake that has happened. There are nearly 400, to be precise, about 300 or 380 odd entities that are live in the ecosystem on the FIU and FIP side as well. So clearly, there are more entities in the ecosystem. There are more data types in the ecosystem. We have adoption by all four entities under all four financial service regulators, which is your SEBI, IRDA, PFRDA, and RBI, of course. So with more data type, with more entities that are on the ecosystem, adoption and acceptance is also a lot higher than it was exactly a year ago from now. But is this enough? No. And that is clearly what Harsh has tried to answer, that, which is the question, answer to your question, that RBI has done, is also doing customer awareness program through RBI Kehta Hai and Mr. Bachchan. And likewise, entities themselves are taking steps towards customer awareness. So once that comes into play, once there is more understanding, once there is more uptake by even FIPs and FIUs, more use cases, or Harsh also mentioned about how banks are looking at creating their own FI use cases now, so that they are not merely providers of data, and they are users of data. And that I can say with confidence, because we know that a lot of providers of data are now trying to be users, and they have actually made it a part of their ongoing strategy, or the strategy for the coming year. So with them becoming users of data as well, there will be need for more data flow to happen. There will be need for more data types to be available. And once all of that is available, along with a simultaneous awareness program that the regulator itself and the entities are also taking up, clearly there will be better adoption in the years to come. So even if we speak about UPI, which is of course the parallel that we draw every time we talk about account aggregator, the exponential growth of UPI happened just at the cusp of a lot of things, right? Enough awareness, enough providers. We moved from just handle based to singular QR based payment transfer payment. Transfer of payment, and of course the need for having digital payments, COVID and so on and so forth, various other external factors, that pandemic, external factors that came at that point. So at that cusp, of course, before that also there was uptake, but the exponential growth that we speak about, 400%, had happened at that cusp. And customer awareness was a huge part of it. Like how you said, Mayank, a while ago, that up until then there was a certain layer that was very well aware of what UPI is, and then it actually percolated down right till the bottom of the pyramid. And that is what will happen with account aggregator as well. As there is more awareness on this side, there is more viability in the ecosystem with data types and with more entities and more awareness together, we will reach that cusp where there'll be an exponential growth in adoption in the years to come. That we're pretty certain of. The second part of Mr. Mujib's question, that he's personally using account aggregator on multiple platforms, and he sees that banking data is refreshed only once in a day. Whereas as a user, he would like to get it refreshed every time he accesses the data. Maybe I would like Manoj. Manoj will be in a better position to answer that. Of course, I can as well answer it. But maybe he would be able to give a better perspective on this question. Manoj, is that okay?
Sure. Uh, what part you want me to answer?
Mr. Mujib is saying that he is getting banking data only once a day, refreshed only once a day from various account aggregator platforms.
So right now, it's more of a pressure, right? So if you look at any platform, right? So right now you can do hourly pull also, right? Or you can refresh every minute also, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a valid use case, right? Like if you look at the in UPI, the balance refresh, right? People just do for fun, right? But it put a lot of pressure on the what you call the banking ecosystem, the API, the infra, right? So right now it is more of a conscientious decision from the FIUs to restrict the user because this is more of a financial information, right? In 1 hour, nothing is changing, right? But let's say there is a particular thing that you think you have to look, you can always go to the bank app and do it, right? So it was a conscious decision by FIU to restrict it once a day or once a hour, that kind of thing.
Got
There's
it.
also a very important, yeah, there's also one more thing I would like to add, Mayank. There's a very important thing that account aggregator, the framework is ultimately used to, the data that you get is used to process to provide a certain product or service. So to that extent is, so to check balances, etc., there are various other ways to do that. But the account aggregator framework, its primary motive is to transfer data which can be eventually processed by the by the FIU and provide the product or service that the customer is looking out for.
Makes sense. Makes sense, of
Also,
course.
yes, and
Yes,
Ruchi
Arpan,
also want
please
to
go ahead.
add on the consent piece here. Essentially, whenever someone does an account aggregator journey, I'm sure Mr. Mujib must have also done an account aggregator journey where he would have given consent, and these terms and these details are specifically mentioned in the consent on the refresh rate, on the consent validity expiry, and essentially till when this data would
Yes.
reside in the forms databases, etc. Right. So even from a consent
Yes.
perspective,
Yes.
a customer is essentially nudged at the very start of the journey on, for how long and what is the consent expiry, for what purpose is the data taken.
Yes. Yes.
Great. I will move to a very fact of the matter question. I think quickly, Manoj, if you could answer this, which is from Ashlesh. He's asking if GST are two-way form now available on the AA network.
So right now, if you look at the schema, right? So 1 and 3B is only available right now, but that will take care of the most of the MSME lending. It's what government thinks. But Samat is already working on getting other the data types to be included. It's a uphill battle, but slowly you will see some movement there.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Cool. And Rahul, I would like to now come to you. And since we have discussed a lot about, all these different use cases and innovations happening, I would want to know from you, as part of MyShubhLife, where all do you kind of use account aggregation and how it has helped you in your own products and journeys, and what has your experience been overall?
Right. So, being a fully digital lender, we need to triangulate the customer's income and liabilities, and essentially the full financial um, 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 uh, heat map of the customer, right? And liability side, what other loans does the customer have? Those things are available from the credit bureaus. But income has always been a challenge. How do we know how much this customer is earning monthly? And that is a large part of the decision to whether to give them a product, to offer them credit or not. And before account aggregator, we used to have all of these various methods of net banking, scraping, PDF upload. Each of them had their own set of challenges. With account aggregator, the risk for us of using the data has been reduced considerably. We are able to offer fully digitized journeys. Our credit products are automated in approval. If we know that the data is coming from an account aggregator, we don't have to do any more of checks. So we are a small ticket loans provider to the salaried and the self-employed, and the bank statement data coming through the account aggregator has been, it's I think one of the key steps for us to process, especially in my target segment. Many of them are new to credit. They have not taken loans in the past, so a large part of our lending models are based on the data that's available in the bank statement, and knowing that it is coming from a trusted source, that's definitely helped us in the credit modeling and decisioning. Not to mention the customer's journey itself. The conversion rate has improved from the previous methods, and the third factor is that it's much more cost effective for us. We used to pay a multiple of what we pay today through the account aggregator to fetch the same bank statement. So cost, customer journey, fast, quick decisions, all of this has completely changed the way we lend.
Wonderful. I think then it's like a win from all sides. And to your point about conversions and customer experience, I think I would definitely concur because at FinBox we did our own proprietary study and we saw that account aggregator itself boosts conversion rates in journeys by about 30% and reduces drop-offs for lenders and all kinds of onboarding processes. At the same time, we also absolutely saw the frauds going down as well by a massive number because the possibility of a statement tampering or of the data being fuddled with in any way kind of gets removed because the data is directly coming from the information provider where it rests in secure servers. So that has definitely been a game changer in the space. And Ruchi, I would like to come to you next in terms of now these with all these use cases evolving, with you also kind of hinting at the amount of data that gets pushed through these pipes will also rise exponentially in the coming days. As more players join, we will also. Would you also have a view on the overall stability of the system? I know Sahamati runs 24 hours live dashboards in terms of the success rates, etc. What do you where do you see this kind of getting stable? What do you see this in terms of the progress towards getting it to a like a stability that we see in, let's say, a UPI, for instance, because that's the benchmark.
Right. So we spoke. So of course we spoke that how in the last 1 year, how uptake has been on an upswing, positive upswing. With from 3 million to 36 million that we have gone in terms of consents fulfilled. Uh, when you say stability, okay, when it comes about data sharing stability, uh, there are two aspects to it, right? Now, when does data sharing, what are the hurdles that can possibly come in data sharing? One could be technical, the other could be administrative. When it comes to technical aspect, there is Sahamati has introduced a tool called as SaaS. We call it the Swast. So it's basically it's an API health dashboard, which is Swast for Account Aggregator Network as a service. Okay, Swast for Account Aggregator Network as a service. And what is the purpose of this tool? The purpose of this tool is to basically determine at what stages of the entire process can there be break links, okay, and which could lead to staggered way of data sharing, or a hurdle or a challenge or a stop to the sharing process to be completely smooth. Now, ever since this tool has come into existence in the last few months, and ever since it is there, we have seen in some cases a very positive response. So we in fact have a case study where a particular bank has seen 100% success rate after being able to determine at what process of the entire data sharing is the breaking happening, at what process is the challenge or the glitch happening, and we've been able to plug it and actually solve for it. Now that's the technical part. On the administrative side, there are other things involved, right? So I just in the last answer mentioned that a lot of providers of data have now are now going to soon become users of data. That's a part of their strategy in the months to come. So with this cohesiveness, or this in principle similar thinking by ecosystem participants, that is providers, by policy makers, regulators themselves, everybody has now bought into the fact that everybody needs to provide data, and every just like how we need to use data to be able to give the right product or service. So there is the environment is very good and very cohesive to kind of get onto the bandwagon in a complete way, as provider and as user both. On beyond that, there are other hurdles, other challenges, which Sahamati is also bilaterally trying to solve for. Challenges which could be in terms of interoperability, challenges that could be in terms of fair use of account aggregator framework, challenges that could be in terms of the economic model. We have created committees which are formed by account aggregator stakeholders themselves. So the ecosystem stakeholders themselves have come together and we've created committees for each of these topics, so that the entire community can come together, brainstorm, deliberate, and solution to create solutions for everybody to have greater uptake in the ecosystem and have a robust ecosystem. So, for example, when it comes to, say, the economic model that we're talking about, there is a committee in place that is brainstorming on what can be the most viable solution for all parties involved, whether it's account aggregators or whether it's incentivizing the FIPs or any other participant that is there in the entire circle. So the technical part is being taken care by tools that have been put in place, and there's constant upgrade that happens to these tools. And the administrative part is taken care by these bilateral discussions, committees, councils, and general advocacy of the entire of the viability and the need for everybody to get onto the ecosystem as provider and user both. Hope that answers your question.
That more than answers it. I think that's very reassuring to see all these all round efforts happening. And I actually do visit these dashboards myself and try to kind of keep track of the things. And it's just interesting
Yes.
for me to sometimes geek out on these, and it's quite fun and
Yeah,
it's
there
quite
are.
nice to see that there's no. Yeah, please go ahead.
Right, to the audience that is sitting here. In fact, to the audience that is sitting here, I would like to say, please visit Sahamati website. Currently, is a single repository of all information that you can get, and especially the dashboards. So, the FIP AA integration dashboard, the basic network participant dashboard, so FIPA integration will give you interoperability. The other dashboards, that is the uptake that has happened in terms of consents raised and consents fulfilled. All of these dashboards, they are available under industry stats on our website for public view.
Yes, I will. I would also urge the same, and I totally can verify that it really helps in understanding where it is and how far we have come actually, and specifically to see that hockey stick chart of just adoption. I think that's my favorite thing to kind of keep looking back, and when we write our newsletters, also we do plug it from time to time. Harsh, I would like to come to you next, and since Ruchi has spoken a lot about in terms of liaisoning, in terms of fixing the kinks in the system and trying to make it more smoother for all entities, what does it look like for you as an FIU? What are the big items on, say, your wish list that you would like to kind of see change or improve in the ecosystem?
Sure. So I think Ruchi has pointed out one very important factor, which is interoperability, right? So a customer who has, let's say there are today, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are 16, 17 account aggregating entities in India today, right? So in a sense, if a user has created an account, right, and has consented to, similar to what is happening on UPI, that the QR code that we have to scan to and make payments from is not, it does not necessarily be, ring fenced to any TPAP or, whether it is Google's or, phone pays or anything like that, right? So that will really help from a customer experience perspective. And, because a customer might be going through these processes with multiple FIUs, right? And there is no need for an FIU to kind of repeat that process if that is already done. So that should definitely help. Second, I think Ruchi did talk about that there is a health API. So I think we very closely with Manoj and his team to see how do we incorporate that, how do we give nudges to customers that there are certain kind of challenges in doing a particular FIP. Why don't you try another if the customer has multiple? And most of the times customers do have several bank accounts to kind of provide access to. So these are things which kind of are initial things. There was a time when UPI transactions used to fail. But I think where we are in account aggregator ecosystem, we have already kind of surpassed that initial troublesome zone. We are in pretty good, robust kind of healthy pulls that are happening. A lot of underwriting for NTC customers. I think Rahul mentioned this is going to bring a lot of financial inclusion for customers. So I see adoption growing. For example, earlier it was for many of the lending journeys, a new to credit, which is NTC as we call it, was a straight through reject. Right now, at least from a financial inclusion perspective, there is an opportunity for those people to be included if they're able to provide this. So that's really kind of wonderful and achievement for the entire ecosystem to come together and to be able to do that. There will continue to be some challenges, I think, which is expected, right? But we have not faced any large challenges which so far which result in complete derailing of this activity. In fact, we have only seen adoption. We started probably with one or two programs. We are now in upwards of 10-15 programs where we are kind of trying to do account aggregator journeys.
Wow, that's quite a scale up, and that's wonderful. And also reassuring that both FIUs, FIPs, TSPs, everyone seems to be very happy and uh, positive about the ecosystem overall. I would now come to Manoj. Manoj, there are a bunch of questions that have come in. One is one is a question by Ahindra Ganesh, who's asking: Are credit card transaction data available on AA, and what is the timeline and roadmap for this data?
Sure. So if you look at the RBI master direction, right, it clearly says individual asset or bank liability only, right? So when you talk about credit card, home loan, personal loan, that is my individual liability, right? So that is not part of the scope. If you look at the master direction, it talks about only asset. So right now there is already a credit bureau system, right, where you can find my liabilities. So my personal take is that it will be not part of a ecosystem unless regulation is modified, or whenever the PCR comes, maybe that can be FIP. As of now, credit card is not part of a ecosystem.
Got it. Do you have anything to add, Ruchi, on this?
No, no, perfect answer. I've just shared a link of the different data types that are active on the ecosystem, which can be shared with all the audiences. It's a
Sure.
report on the website which shows all the data types that is active on the ecosystem.
We will make sure to definitely share it with the audience. Uh, cool. I think Manoj, there is one more thing that everyone talks about, which is that possibly there should be a chance for all AAs to get access to all FIPs, right? Like in terms of integration effort. So I would like to know from you, because there are a lot of FIPs out there. How does that journey play out for you? Has it how difficult or easy has it been for you?
Right. So let's be very clear. This is initial days and this is all initial hurdles, right? But down the line, all the AAs will have all the FIPs. No AAs will ever choose that I will not work with this FIP. It is not in its commercial interest or customer service interest, right? It's just these are initial hurdles, right? So, but let's talk about onboarding an AA on a FIP, right? First is you have to go to the vendor onboarding or security audits and things like that, right? Once that is done, then it will be IP whitelisting. Once the IP whitelisting, then UAT sign off. Let's say I did it with, let's say ICC did it with Finvu, right? And then once the UAT sign off is done, production may we have to just enable IP, test it once, and we are live. But once that effort is done by SSF or Finvu, enabling the next A is just a process, right? I have to just spend a couple of hours doing the testing. Now here also Sahamati is already helped, right? Because they have come up with a tool, certification tool, right? Where you can be rest assured that the request and response, the solution that I have built as AA or FIP or FIU is compliant with at least 99% of the use cases, right? If not 100, right? So onboarding in a production is just business decision, whitelisting of IPs and enabling. That's it. So it should not take more than a couple of hours per AA.
Got it. Got it. I think now I would want to. So there's a user question also, Arpan. So you mentioned a bit about UNR. So people are asking, how mature the product is currently, and what are the various use cases that can be addressed through it.
So on the UNR piece, I think it's still not matured. The PFM use cases or the PFM players can actually give this as an offering on the platform, but this particular field is yet to be explored more on the from the FIP side as well, and from a TSP and FIU side as well. I think Ruchi can shed more light on this UNR question.
I think it's a little bit of a jargon for me. Can you tell me what is UNR?
So this is the unified registration of
Hello.
nominees. Ruchi, are we audible?
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Unified registration of nominees. Okay. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm a little lost with this. I kind of missed some bit. You're saying unified registration of nominees under which side? Like where? In the securities business, in the banking industry, which one? When you say nominees, so typically I know that for my investments I need nominees. For my insurances I need nominees. Right?
So no
So
problem.
where
I think on this, this is a
I
little, yeah, we still have a lot to explore on the UNR thing, especially on the FIU and FIP type score.
see we know that
yes, I think
definitely I think sorry, Mayank, just finishing, just adding some
no,
bit.
no, yeah,
In
Ruchi, go
fact, in
ahead,
one of
please
the
continue.
earlier questions, yeah. So in one of the earlier questions, we mentioned that with account aggregator. In fact, Arpan mentioned one of the use cases that would, if this is what you were referring to, UNR, that with account aggregator coming into place, you'll be able to actually see where are the nominees, which holdings of a customer still don't have nominations, and actually an investment advisor or a wealth management company will be able to tell the customer that okay, these are this is where nominations is yet to be left. And in fact, on a larger scale, on a macro scale, it can help to kind of take care of the elephant in the room, which is the unclaimed assets, right? uh, definitely, there is a very viable use case. Definitely, there have been discussions in various quarters on how it can be applied from an industry perspective. But at this point in time, I will not be in a position to say what is the application, or if it is already being used by a certain investment advisor as part of the tools that they have embedded to read the raw data and propel this information to the advisor. So I think in fact Finbox will be better positioned to answer this.
Soon, we'll bring something on this soon. That's what I'm hoping. And Rahul, I would now want to come to you and also ask you a little bit about, there is something which is happening, which I personally noticed, which is that TSPs and FIUs are also trying to integrate with multiple AAs at the same time. What do you think is driving this, and what is a real world outcome of this approach?
Right. So I think Manoj already touched upon it a little bit, right? Which is that since these are early stages, every AA has to integrate with every single FIP. And so once I'm as an FIU, I'm working with an AA. The next AA comes and says, "Hey, you know what? I have more FIPs on my platform. Why don't you start using me?" Right. So that's, I think, what's going on right now. But there are also other factors, which is cost. If you are currently getting charged X, I'll give you a 20% discount, 30% discount, and all of that, which I think is healthy for the ecosystem. As an FIU, I'm very happy about that. Third factor is uptime. I will give you more uptime, which is again, I think, part of a healthy market. As an FIU, I would really want to have like a backup and a business continuity plan and not be logged into like a single account aggregator. So my interest there is just to have a backup second one that is working. I think the last factor is many of the account aggregators are also have an affiliate TSP, which does processing of the data. So instead of just giving you the raw data of a bank statement of a customer, you also add some analytics on top of that. What are the income, liabilities? What are the different ratios which are typically used in lending? So the other TSPs come and tell you that, hey, you know what, my analytics and the value add that I give has much better credit scoring viability. You can predict defaults much better with these sort of analytics, which I think can be like a real game changer. many of the FIUs are reliant on these sort of analytics to make actual lending decisions, and if this can come through the TSP, I think this will be a game changer. So all of the other factors are sort of transient. I really see this analytics as a value added thing that could really differentiate between two TSPs and account aggregators.
Interesting point. I think to this point, I would love to know a little bit from Arpan. Arpan, if you could give our audience a sense of, as a TSP and through BankConnect, what are the kind of value adds that we are able to do in terms of metrics and indicators for our lending underwriting decision? If you could do that very quickly.
No, absolutely. So, first talking about coverage, in the last 1 year, where it was 4 or 5 banking institutions to where we have more than 25 live banking institutions right now. There are more and more FIPs joining the network. Now with this, TSPs like FinBox, Bank Connect. So we also drive innovations and constantly do interesting things. Like we are also trying to build account aggregator stable flow journeys, wherein the conversions are drived massively. For some of the customers, we have also seen that the conversions can grow up to 80% for account aggregator journeys. So definitely, we have been trying to do a lot of things with the like Harsh was also mentioning about the analytics piece, right? Wherein like in UPI, if you see there is a bank that has lower success rates, it could show that probably you can try transacting with some another bank. So journeys like this, optimizing our user experiences, FinBox, Bank Connect have been trying to essentially optimize for conversions and adoptions.
Excellent, excellent. I think now we are almost near the closing time. So what I would like to do now is a little bit of an exercise where I would like all of you to kind of share your closing thoughts, as well as if you could, mention something that's on your wish list, something that you're excited about in the AA ecosystem in the coming few quarters and years that we should be on the lookout for our audience. That will be interesting to know. Harsh, could we start with you?
Sure. So I think this is a very pivotal step that we have taken. This is going to be a great addition to the India stack. There is no second opinion within the industry about the importance of account aggregator. I think like everything that we've seen, whether it is UPI, whether it is earlier CICs, any India stack takes a little bit of effort from all the participants. So I think we are all equally inclined and positioned to kind of provide that support. Along with that, a massive customer education drive is the need of the hour. Because essentially a product is as good as the adoption of that product. Some of these things need to be more or done a little bit more vigorously, and then we will truly see the rewards in them. I would urge I'm not sure which entity or which firm can do that, but some of these things getting portrayed on, let's say, YouTube's now, or influencer channels, or let's say TVs, etc., whatever it is, right? The mood being, if that can be done, then suddenly there is a word which is, let's say, account aggregator to talk about. The same happened with UPI, and obviously, like Ruchi mentioned, that there were external factors, a lot of factors that galvanize the growth of it. There are external factors already working in favor of account aggregator. So I think in 2 to 3 years, we will be in a position where once customers have done one-time registration with account aggregators, the next time processes are much more simpler. They have adopted the use cases. There are more use cases that would have come up. The journeys would have become more streamlined. The minor differences between the journeys of one account aggregator versus another's, or one FIUs versus another's, will start eroding away to give a more unified and seamless experience to customers. But eventually, we are doing this for our customers. We are doing this for financial inclusion. We are doing this to educate customers, follow best practices in lending. So we are all kind of very excited that in 2 to 3 years, this is going to be a very massive kind of game changer in the Indian ecosystem.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Thanks, Harsh. I will come to Rahul next.
Hey, so interestingly, when before I even started MyShubhLife back in 2015, there was a presentation that had mentioned consent-driven data sharing. So it's actually taken us like good 7, 8 years for this account aggregator to come to fruition, right? And one of the premise of my startup is that we have all of these layers, starting from Aadhaar to UPI to all of that, and finally the consent-driven data. And that is one of the pillars on which my company is going to get built. And so there is no words to describe account aggregator. It's absolutely necessary for us. My wish list would be to get more diverse sort of data. Right now bank statements are there, which is good, but we would really want to utilize more GSTs just come on board. We are trying to get our hands on GST data through account aggregator. We would like to see mutual funds. If teleco data gets available through account aggregator, that would be fantastic. A lot of digital apps are still trying to get their hands on this data through some other routes, but if it really comes through account aggregator, I think that would be fantastic.
Amazing. That's a very interesting point. Manoj,
Yeah. I'm adding to the Rahul's point also, right? Right now, A is what UPI was 5 to 7 years back, right? Like more data we get, right, for any FIUs, right? So be it be from SEBI, RBI, PFRDA, IRDA, right, GSTIN. So if we give 85 or if not 100% of the data, right, 85% of the complete ecosystem, that will be a good bump. But it will be another 1.5 years, it will be uphill battle. But then more FI type comes, more SLAs are committed in the ecosystem, and the data quality that will drive the ecosystem.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think on uphill or not, it's the only battle worth fighting. So I think we'll get there. Ruchi,
Well, I think everybody has summed up really well on this next exciting phase for the account aggregator ecosystem. I would urge everybody who's on the fence, all the regulated entities who are eligible regulated entities who are on the fence about this, to get onto the bandwagon, because there's never a better time than right now. There is a great uptake, great adoption, lot of cohesiveness, stakeholders working together towards creating a very, very viable ecosystem and level playing ground for all participants. So we can, sit back and wait for the explosion to happen. That's what I would think.
absolutely. It will. It's coming. Uh, Arpan,
I think everyone has summed up pretty much everything for what's the future of account aggregator. I think in shorter term, I'm very excited about personal finance management applications and wealth management applications, because I think this is a very hot topic in the market right now, also in the ecosystem. I'm also very excited about, so essentially account aggregator is a very closely knitted with a lot of entities, FIP, FIUs, TSP account aggregators, Sahamati. And I think I've seen, all these players coming together. Even the steering committees have been driving a lot of initiatives. So, 1 year is a huge time for a lot of changes. So definitely a lot of things are going on. Even at FinBox, we are making a lot of innovative products around the account aggregator ecosystems and in banking in general. So definitely very interested.
amazing. Cool. I think this wraps up today's panel, folks. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Arpan. Thank you, Harsh, Manoj, Rahul, and Ruchi. It's been a wonderful chat. I personally learned a lot, and I feel like our audience has been all also been very engaged. So thank you all for sticking around and listening to us blabber. And I hope it was useful to all of you. And please do keep tuned in. Please do be tuned into Finbox for more such events coming forward. And thank you so much again, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you, everybody.